Hey guys, it's Mike Wise here on my YouTube channel, My Autistic Life. Thank you very much for tuning in today. So this is my third video. So far I've done two others. First one was just kind of an introduction about what I'm going to be talking about on this channel. And then last week I also did another video where I talked about my birth and some of my early years. For today's video, I went ahead and took a poll on Facebook, and I asked some of my friends what I should talk about, either sensory issues or stemming. And stemming won. People are interested in what stemming is, what it's all about. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So what is stemming, first of all? It stands for self-stimulatory behavior. So let's get the obvious joke out of the way. Yes, that is included. You know what I'm talking about, too. Don't pretend that you don't. While we're at it, get your mind out of the gutter. So anyway, self-stimulatory behavior. Everybody does it. It's not just something that autistic people do. All of you have a stem. Now, it's probably not as obvious as mine or other people that are on the autistic spectrum, but you do have them. So if you've ever fiddled with your wedding ring or wrapped your fingers against a desk, if you have ever bitten your fingernails, or kind of compulsively brushed your hands through your hair, or snapped your fingers, or if you kind of just sort of drum on your knee, those are all stems. Now, with autistic people, our stems are a little bit more obvious. Me, for instance, I have a couple. Now, when I get really, really excited, I will kind of flap my hands together, or I will rub my hands, the palms of my hands against my stomach. Typically, when I'm working or sitting at a desk or any place where I'm sitting where both my feet are flat on the floor, I will tend to lift my right foot so that I'm on the ball of my foot and I kind of bounce my heel up and down. Another thing I do is I'll shake my legs back and forth. I do that one quite a bit, especially if my legs are, if I'm in a reclined position. If I'm standing still somewhere, I get a lot of pent-up nervous energy, so I kind of bounce my knee back and forth on one, just on one of my legs. Those are all things that I will typically do. I used to kind of play the drums on my desk, but I stopped doing that when I was a kid. A lot of my stems are very, very, I want to say almost subtle. At least to what they used to be. Now, again, when I get really excited, I will tend towards hand flapping, rubbing my hands together, rubbing my palms together, or rubbing my palms against my stomach. Those are things that I definitely I tend to do. So why do autistic people stem? That's the next question. Well, they do it for various reasons. We do it because we get excited. We do it because we're anxious. Sometimes we just have a lot of pent-up energy, and we need that to kind of keep things kind of going. I do it for those reasons, too. Another reason why I stem personally is it helps me to think. So there's a part of my brain that needs constant stimulation. And I'll probably talk more about that part of my brain in subsequent episodes. It's something I used to call noise. I don't really know what to call it now. But there's a part of my brain that is always constantly working, always constantly thinking, always constantly just going in loops and circles. And it needs stimulation for it to shut up. So that's one of the reasons why I stem. It helps me to concentrate, especially when I'm at work. I do a lot of, so right now I'm a claims analyst, a medical claims analyst, so I do a lot of looking at things and investigating things and making determinations. So when I stem and I'm doing that, then it just kind of helps me to focus on what is in front of me. instead of going into off all these other existential areas and self-shaming and self-loathing patterns that that particular part of my brain seems to feed off of. I do it to keep me from going into overwhelm and then into meltdown mode. Meltdowns are something that I will obviously talk about in other episodes as well. But just to kind of give you an idea, if an autistic person gets very overstimulated with any kind of external stimuli, fear, anxiety, they can go into what is called overwhelm, and they kind of lock up. And the longer that they're there, the higher that experience gets, the more prone they are to meltdown. Meltdowns for me look a couple different ways. Either I'll lash out in some sort of something that looks like anger. I curse a lot. I yell a lot. I kick things, I throw things sometimes, or what's more typical to happen now because I've gotten more control over that is I'll cry. And I'll just start crying and I won't be able to stop. So that's what meltdowns look like. And stimming prevents those things from happening. So that's what stimming is. That's what it looks like. That's where it comes from. What do we do about it? And I don't just mean like autistic people, but as a society, what do we do about it? It's an interesting question that I'm asking then, huh? How do we manage that? What do we do about it? I asked that because of a couple different reasons. So I was doing a little bit of background so that I could do this video today, so I wasn't looking like I was talking completely out of my ass. And one of the first things that came up in my search was a website called Healthline, and the article that was there had some problems with it. At least I found some problems with it. The headline of the article was Stimming, what it is and how to manage it. You see the issue with that? Stimming is something that needs to be managed. The article went on to say that a lot of the autistic versions of self-stimulatory behavior, or STEMs, or stemming, were not appropriate in society. They just, they're too much. They bring up too much attention to the person that is doing it, so they could be detrimental. Now, is that a problem of the autistic person, or is that a problem about social norm and the way that we have society set up? Because honestly, here's something that I'm gonna posit to you here real fast. The worst thing that you can do to an autistic person is make them self-conscious about their STEM. I'm going to say that again. The worst thing that you can do to an autistic person is make them self-conscious about their STEM. Remember, stemming is something that happens when you're overwhelmed, when you're anxious, when you're trying to think, you're trying to self-soothe, self-calm. So if you have somebody that is now making you feel self-conscious about that, what happens? Overwhelm. Because now all of a sudden, that tape loop that's going on in your brain is like, oh, they're aware of this. They're aware. They're looking at me. They're laughing at me. They're uncomfortable at me. So I'm the problem. I need to stop. Now I have to be more aware of what my body is doing. So now I'm not listening to whatever's going on. I'm just thinking about, I can't stem. I can't stem. I can't stem. I can't stem. It's horrible. It happened actually a couple weeks ago. I was in training, and I was doing one of my normal stems, which, again, I kind of bounce my heel of my right foot up and down, and I happened to be, unfortunately, too close to the table, so the whole table shook. And so this guy who's in the training class, nice guy, really good guy, no problem with him at all. But he, not knowing, he just like, hey, dude, you're shaking the table. So, of course, now that's all I'm thinking about. It sucks. it sucks. Do we really need autistic people to self-govern their stems? Because here's a couple things that happen. First of all, if you make the autistic person completely aware of their stem, maybe they stop that particular stem. There's just going to be another one. It's kind of a cornerstone of the autistic experience. That's what we do. Audis be stemming.
I thought you were going to talk about the time my dad pointed it out.
Well, that's my wife over there. The lovely Corey. Say hello to everyone.
Hey, guys.
So that's one of the things that, I can't even remember what my stem was that I was doing.
You're shaking your leg.
I was shaking my leg. Actually, I'm doing that right now. So just to kind of give you a real world, this is my particular stem that I'm doing right now. This is the one I typically will do if I'm reclined and I'm thinking. So again, it just kind of wards off other thoughts, that tape loop in that part of my brain that kind of, goes into the self-loathing tape loops and the reels and all that kind of stuff. I can keep that at bay by giving it something to think about. So now it's controlling my leg, I'm stemming, and I'm good. So, but yeah, there was a time when my father-in-law, he, again, made me very self-conscious about what I was doing. And so then and he said, I was only kidding, Mike. And I didn't call him out on it because I don't. But I was thinking about that for the rest of the afternoon. So what do we do with that? Here's some thoughts. Because I'm not ignorant to the fact that there are some stems that are harmful. I have seen some people who are lower on the autism spectrum, and their particular... Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Scampy. So there are stems that can be harmful. I have seen some people who are lower on the spectrum that they'll start doing this with their head. They'll actually smack their head against the wall. Some stems are problematic and more disruptful than others. There was somebody who was autistic that came into the waiting room where I was working at the hospital and non-vocal. And they were coming in for a procedure, so they were nervous and anxious, and they vocalized. I'm not going to try to recreate that. I'm no interest in dehumanizing that by trying to characterize it. But they vocalized. It was sort of a scream, moan kind of thing. And it made other people uncomfortable, as it would. They, instead of just like, okay, this person is obviously distressed and obviously can't talk, and this is the way that they express themselves, they have to make a big deal out of it. And it just makes me sad. And again, if you are a parent with an autistic child, they're lower on the spectrum, and they're doing things that are hurting themselves or hurting other people, by all means intervene. Don't hear me saying that, stemming is just stemming and, you don't have to do anything about it. No. If they're hurting themselves, if they're hurting somebody else, intervene. Stop that stem. They'll find one that doesn't do that. They'll find one that doesn't hurt themselves or hurt other people. But other than those situations, who cares if a stem is socially acceptable or not? Who cares? That's more of a symptom of our society than it is of the autistic person. And people do things that I find unacceptable all the time. But other people find them to be socially acceptable. So, is my discomfort going to trump whatever it is that they're doing? I don't think so. People do what they do, and as long as they're not hurting anybody, then who cares? So if you are autistic, stem. If it helps you, stem. If there are people in your life who call you out on it. Be gentle with those people and just say, hey, this is how I get through the day. Now, if it's causing any major problems, like the table shaking or whatever, then I can work on doing things that make it less disruptive. But this is how I get through the day. The same way that some people have to go and get a cigarette in order to, again, there are things that I find socially unacceptable. Got a lot of people to work that got to smoke for whatever reason. And we work in healthcare too. That's the weird thing. Anyway, that's a tangent I'm not going to go on. If you stem and somebody calls you out on it, just let them know, hey, I got to do this. I have to. It helps me to focus. It helps me to stay relaxed so that I can do the best that I can at whatever it is that I'm putting my hand to. If you are a parent of an autistic child and they stem and they're not hurting themselves, let them stem. Let them stem as much as they need to. It isn't going to make them more autistic. And not stemming isn't going to make them any less autistic. So let them stem. And if you are neurotypical and you work with autistic people or you know autistic people in your life, be gentle with these people. Don't call them out on their stems. Just don't. I mean, stop it. Seriously. We all got our mannerisms and everything that we do just to get through the day. We all have our quirks. This is just one that the autistic people deal with. I close with something beautiful that my wife said not too long ago, because I remember I was stemming, and this was after I had that. I wouldn't even say it's an altercation. And again, I like the guy. I had no problem with him at all. I am not calling him out. What happened is what happened. But after that, I came home and I was hanging out with my wife. We were watching TV in the other room, and I was stemming. I was kind of shaking my legs. And I didn't look at her because I don't always, because eye contact. And we'll get into that in another episode. But I said, you've been with me for so long, and my stemming has never bothered you, even at the beginning of our relationship. She said, no, it doesn't bother me at all. I never even thought a thing about it. In fact, she said, sometimes when you're stemming and I'm sitting with you and you're moving the couch, it relaxes me. And it just was a beautiful moment for our relationship. It made me feel very loved and cared for. And any time that you can allow somebody in your life to feel loved and cared for, do that. Instead of being the guy that's like, hey, that might be problematic. No, shut up. Make people feel loved and cared for. That's just a beautiful gift that you can give people. That's all I'm going to say on that. Well, that's it. That's self-stimulatory behavior in a nutshell for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments. You can also inbox me here on YouTube. You can send me an email at mikey77@gmail.com. I haven't set up a Facebook page for this YouTube channel. I think that I will do that so that I have another presence. And then you can just like the page and tell all your friends about it too, and I can post the videos directly to there. That would be a good thing. I'm still learning this stuff, so thanks for your patience. And more videos to come. Take care. Have a great day.